A Time for Change, written by Alicia Klepeis, illustrated by Laura Tolton. Chapter 1, Candy and Complaints. Pudding! Pudding! As the final bell of the day blared through the Charles Taylor High School, Amari Johnson jumped. You jump every day, Amari. You'd think you'd just seen a ghost, her best friend Jackie teased. I know, it's crazy, isn't it? I've been at this school since September, and I'm still like a jumping bean. Amari grabbed her stack of books and notebooks and headed down the hall to her locker. She filled her leather school bag with all the things she needed for the night's homework. Then she and Jackie headed into the chilly January air. Walking down Morton Street, Amari and Jackie had their favorite blowing off steam after school routines. They always spied on the boys playing handball at the court in Dorchester Park. Amari tried to stifle a giggle when she saw Marcus Coleman on the court. She'd had a crush on him since the 5th grade when he moved to Mattapan from Virginia. She loved his accent, the way he seemed to linger over every syllable with that southern drawl. But when Marcus played Mac the Knife on his acoustic guitar in last year's talent show, she was completely won over. Cute and talented, some people had it all. After they passed the court, the girls stopped in at Parker's corner store. Good afternoon, girls. Are you here for a candy run? Mr. Parker, the elderly shop owner, winked at Amari and Jackie. They used their allowance and babysitting money to buy a treat nearly every day after school. Yes, sir. Amari got a few Necco mint julep taffies and a pack of Red Vines licorice. Jackie went with her favorite treat, the sweet and chewy Bitto honey bar. Digging nickels and dimes from their change purses, the girls paid Mr. Parker and headed toward Amari's house. Jackie was never in a huge hurry to go home. Her mom was a maid for a rich white family in Milton and usually didn't get home until after dinner time. Walking the 12 blocks from Mr. Parker's shop to the Johnson house never seemed to take very long. Jackie and Amari could talk non-stop for hours, especially after being practically silent all day at school. They'd been the best of friends since their kindergarten days. Did you see how half the pages of my science book fell out today? Amari asked Jackie. These books must be 20 years old. I honestly have no idea how I'm going to keep this pathetic old thing together until the end of the school year. I know, said Jackie. The same thing happened in my math book last year. That's because most of our textbooks are hand-me-down from wealthier towns or la-di-da neighborhoods in Boston. By the time we get them, the books have already been deemed junk, so they get passed along to inner-city schools like ours. Sometimes the books are so old that information is out of date. Does that happen at Isaiah's school? Amari wondered. Never, Jackie replied. If you are smart enough to get into Boston Latin and a boy, Amari interrupted. Yeah, and a boy, Jackie continued. Like I was saying, if you get into Boston Latin, then you get books in fabulous condition and excellent teachers. My brother says the science labs there are amazing. He wants to be a marine biologist when he grows up. Jackie's older brother Isaiah was 16, 2 years older than Amari and Jackie, but they were all excellent students and took whatever advanced classes they could. Amari often got end-of-the-year awards for her hard work and good grades. Amari was unusually quiet for a minute. Her forehead was crinkled and her eyes seemed to be looking in the distance. Jackie knew better than to interrupt her friend's thoughts. Finally, Amari asked, do you think it would be better to stay at a school like ours or be one of the Little Rock Nine? Wow, girl, where do you come up with this stuff? I was just munching on my bit of honey and your brain is in full speed ahead mode. Let me think out loud. The books and supplies at Central High School in Little Rock are probably heaps nicer than what we have. It is a white school after all. But nobody hates us at Charles Taylor. Well, maybe that nasty girl Kishina, but she doesn't like anyone. Nobody gets on our whim when we walk into the building. We don't need the National Guard to protect us. Amari agreed. Yeah, I think you're right, Jax. Remember how white kids ripped at Elizabeth Eckford's clothes? They even clawed at her skin, like animals. It was horrible. All 9 of those kids had a rough time at Central High. I don't know if I could have kept going day after day when I knew no one wanted me there. Me neither. Do you think schools in Boston will become integrated soon, Amari? I guess at some point. But after what's happened in Little Rock, I doubt the people in charge are in a big hurry for what you know will be trouble. Did I tell you about my cousin Rana, one of my Auntie Layla's kids? She was fed up with the crummy supplies at her school, so she started a letter writing campaign to ask for equal funding for white and black schools. Dozens of her classmates wrote letters, and they mailed them to the governor's office. Jackie was fascinated. And what happened? Did Rana hear back? Not yet, but it's only been a few weeks, from what my dad tells me. Maybe we should try it, Jackie suggested. When Amari opened the front door to her house, a waft of sweet-smelling air enveloped her and Jackie. Something yummy must have just come out of the oven. Mrs. Johnson loved to bake. After eating some apple crisp, Amari headed to her room. She and Jackie flipped through a few of Mrs. Johnson's ebony magazines. They loved to look through the advertisements and try to recreate the hairstyles on each other. Jackie's short hair was perfect for lots of the cute styles in the magazine, and Amari's was long enough to try the new bouffant style or mini braids. They dug through Amari's bureau drawers to see if any of her clothes looked like the ones in the current month's issue. On this particular afternoon, one of her lime green tops was a dead weight ringer for the one worn by a model in a soda shop ad. Amara's tall, thin frame was perfect for pretending to be a model. Jackie liked to be the stylist and get her friend all decked out in the latest fashions. Mrs. Johnson even loaned a silky scarf and some melamine earrings for the occasion. The girls were nearly done with their make-believe photo shoot when Mrs. Johnson knocked on the door. 20 minutes to dinner, she announced. By the way, girls, you look amazing. If I didn't know better, I'd say you were ebony models. Mrs. Johnson was always one of the most stylish dressers around. Amari loved looking through the photographs of when her mom and dad were first married. They looked dashing on their dates. They loved going to hear live music, especially jazz, and seeing theater productions. Usually, after school, Amari and Jackie danced and sang. So in the last remaining minutes before dinner, they dashed to the bin of records in Amari's older sister Tamara's room. Since she was at college, Tamara wouldn't know if her younger sister played her albums, as long as Amari didn't scratch them. Jackie chose one of her all-time favorite tunes, Bobby Day's Rockin' Robin. She put the needle down carefully on the vinyl record. Then the girls let loose with their best I don't care who sees me dance moves. They didn't dare jump on or the record might skip and get scratched. Amari erupted into fits of laughter at Jackie's hilarious dance moves. It was a good way to end their afternoon.